Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Hello, dear colleagues and conference participants. I would like to thank Mr. Adrov for giving me a unique opportunity to speak in front of such respected audience. I will speak about geodesy and cartography in Russia. I will attempt to do it within the time frame given to me and outline to you the main areas where we can see transformations in our field. As far as the geodesy and cartography is concerned, we are observing major changes both in technologies and how the thing is organized. Understanding the strategic importance of this field, the President of the Russian Federation and the government of the Russian Federation undertook some measures to harmonize its structure in accordance with the priorities of the state. In accordance with the development concept of our cartography industry until 2020, the government has approved a resolution in 2010. This is order number 2378R. This is the text of this resolution. And according to this resolution, the main goal of our field is to provide cartography materials to the end users and so that they can perform state-level projects in the field of engineering, construction, natural resources management, environment protection, military and defense sectors. In accordance with the development concept, the development measures for the geodesy and cartography field must be directed until the year 2020 on the following things: improvement of the timeliness of the geodesy work through a large-scale use of modern cutting-edge satellite imagery technologies and positioning, improvement of the timeliness and accessibility to all map users by introducing new procedures and technologies for updating and dissemination of spatial images, as well as reduction of redundant barriers to the accessibility of spatial imagery. The improvement of the quality of work done by mapping agencies and increase of their responsibility by establishing a new system of state regulation of the geodesy and cartography activities. The main direction of the development of our industry until 2020 is its specialization, both in terms of its approaches and introduction of new mechanisms of state management in this field. At the same time, such modernization must focus, first of all, on the change of the existing forms of state management, as well as improvement or implementation of state transformations in this field. The founding factor in the structural reform was the publishing of or enactment of the presidential edict number 296, and also the resolution of the government as of April 17, 2012. And this edict stipulates establishment of a vertically integrated structure which consists of 32 branch enterprises whose priority is the implementation of geodesy and cartography activities in the interests of the Russian government, as well as provision or insurance of the security and defense capability of the Russian Federation, as well as provision of this information to other agencies which will facilitate the performance of their functions. The structure of the established structure can be visualized as this flow chart. At the moment, we have finalized the establishment of the vertically integrated structure. The owner of the shares of the 32 mapping agencies is joint stock company Russian Cartography, and the only owner is the Russian Federation, represented by the Russian Property Committee. We have established new management bodies like the Board of Directors, chaired by Nikolai Kasimov. His first deputy He is the first deputy also of the Russian Mapping Society. At the same time, he's a dean of the Cartography faculty of the Moscow University. As we speak, the structure of Geodesy company, Russian Cartography, includes 19 aerogeodesic enterprises, surveyors and 3 surveyors enterprises, 3 scientific and research enterprises, 7 production companies. As a result of those companies being incorporated, some of the materials related to cartography and geodesical stock had been submitted to the Central Cartography and Geodesical Fund. In accordance with the main development concept of this agency, it was then retransferred into the state budget agency. I'm talking about the Center for Spatial Data. The main goals of the newly established entity is the scientific methodological support of cartography and geodesical work, as well as the storing of the mapping data and materials. At the time when different structures and sectors of economy demonstrate ever-growing or increasing demand for mapping and satellite imagery, still they suffer also from the economic and structural crises. The principal factors which had a negative effect on the status of our industry would be reforms that our industry has had to go through, which are not really well informed or educated, and the problems of funding of geodesical and mapping projects for the federal and state projects, which led to unacceptable obsolescence of maps and plans of cities, and we also lost some of the valuable materials along the line, which led to the replication and overlapping of some of the works in different executive branches of our power, in efficient use of budget money as well. Besides, because of the lack or inadequate system of state contracts for federal projects, very often we see structures who do not have specialists who can do or qualify to do this kind of work. Speaking about the funding structure of our industry, the size of funding for federal and state needs from 2007 till 2015 and 2012, and the planned indicators for 2013-2015 are shown on this diagram. The need for funding of the state-level geodesical and mapping works are estimated at the level of more than 5 billion Russian rubles on the annual basis. Still, the actual funding is much lower, and in the coming few years we have entertained no hopes that it will reach this level. According to the resolution of 2013, the joint stock company Roscartography is the only agent who can place state orders or implement state orders at the overall amount of 2018 million Russian rubles. This is an important distribution act issued by Russia, which specifies competences on the Russian market in the interests of the state. Despite all above enumerated difficulties, Roscartography managed to preserve our scientific, technical, and production capacities. As I told you, our joint stock company includes 32 agencies or enterprises located all over the territory of the Russian Federation, from Magadan in the east to Kaliningrad in the west. These enterprises also have their branches, which consist from over more than 100 branches or offices. The composition, or rather The enterprises of Roscartography have wealth of experience of working with regional governments in terms of doing projects in the interest of the subjects of the Russian Federation, starting from the mapping databases and the development of geographical information systems, which are applied for the daily activities of local governments, helping them in making effective, informed solutions. And the joint stock company Roscartography is going to retool its enterprises based on a single development policy and dissemination of new cutting-edge high-tech technologies, and through strengthening links with Russian universities and Russian companies working in the field of advanced technologies. Understanding the huge volume of variegated geospatial data that we have to work with, one of the main lines of our Roscartography activity is the introduction of technology of automated data processing. Using the modern processes of information technologies, especially the technology of remote sensing data processing, we acquire new capabilities of dissemination of electronic services and materials on the market. We're well informed about the Rokers products, which is a modern and very reliable solution. And we hope that our work and cooperation with the college will be even more fruitful in the future. I would like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me to it, and I hope that our cooperation will be very effective, and we're open for cooperation with anyone. Thank you. Thank you, Dmitry. Would there be questions for Mr. Krasnikov? Are there any questions? Then maybe I will ask you a question. Speaking about the reform of the industry, do I understand correctly that the joint stock company of Roscartography includes only production companies, whereas scientific research companies or the database owners are not part of your entity? No, not exactly. As I told you already, we also have 7 scientific and production companies like State Center Nature, or Природа in Russian. And what about Snigaik? No, Snigaik is part of FGBU. This is a scientific center of geodesy and cartography and spatial data. At the same time, the newly established entity is an owner of cartography stock and is responsible for its final application. Would there be other questions? Thank you very much then.